Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I'm in Tustin, California, and let me tell you, I am excited. I've been hearing about this place, Stark Health, from Chirag Sagar, the other co-founder of Mission Matters, Matt Cook, the director of agency, and they keep on telling me, Adam, you gotta go check it out. You gotta go see what Todd is doing. And I'm like, all right, we gotta see. So I think they're telling me I need to lose a little bit of weight, number one, but number two, Chirag is shredded, man. I'm feeling the guns over there. I see you, Chirag. I see you. Come on. So I'm excited to be here. Seriously, we did a behind the scenes that we're going to be releasing on the channel as well. So our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business Podcast. So you got a behind the scenes tour where Todd took us through one by one each station and each benefit. So definitely check this out, and you can check them out at Stark Health. And don't forget to check out the podcast, which we'll talk a little bit about that today too. Health is a skill, so check both of those out, and welcome. All right, so let's start with the intro. So Todd Vandehei is the founder of Stark Health, a Southern California-based healthcare company redefining what it means to practice medicine. At the heart of his mission is a shift away from reactive, pharmaceutical-dependent care and toward a proactive model grounded in root cause healing. Dr. Alice Nguyen is Director of Naturopathic Medicine at Stark Health. She specializes in peak performance via targeted nutrition, key supplementation, pharmaceutical interventions, and advanced aging tactics. All right, so first, Todd, Alice, welcome to the show, and thank you for letting us shoot in your beautiful place.
Thank you, good to be here with you.
All right, so I got to tell you, as I mentioned in the intro, Todd, Matt, Chirag, they're fired up. They're fired up about what you're doing here. I've heard about you as well, Alice. They've been telling me about what's going on over here on the naturopathic side, so we're going to get into both of those. And today, we're going to be getting into sex hormones, brain, mental health, and metabolism. So before we get into all these though, Todd, for the audience at home and maybe some of the new friends here and the new guests that we have here, I've heard you say, and correct me on the quote here, but I've overheard you talk about you being patient 0 or patient 1. What does that mean?
Well, it means that we take all of the ideas that we believe may offer potential, and we try them on me first.
He's a guinea pig.
I was just going to say, can we say guinea pig?
Guinea pig, crash dummy, lots of variations of it. But because many of the most effective tools that we use are natural, like dietary changes, for example, it takes long periods of time of being very rigid and being willing to stick to something and then test over and over and over again to really understand what the theoretical outcome would be for people. And when we think something is going to work or will work or has worked based on lab results and DEXA scans and orthopedic assessments, then we apply them to the greater Stark population and continue down the testing road.
How did you know, and just this is for the entrepreneurs at home and in the audience, how did you know that this was going to be the idea that you were going to build? A lot of things you could have done with your time. Like, how did this become your mission?
Well, I was exposed to a very, very basic diet. You guys have probably heard of an elimination diet, right? Does that ring a bell? You just take out like dairy and eggs and gluten. And I did that as per the recommendation of my partner at the time. And I just did whatever he told me to do, frankly. I didn't really think much about it. And I didn't know what the outcome would be. And I didn't even realize that I felt like such shit. I just didn't. I had no contrast. I had no basis for comparison. And just to give you kind of an overview of what it was like to be inside of my body back then, it was daily headaches, periodic migraines like once a month. My neck constantly hurt. My shoulders ached, and I had a back injury from when I was in my early 20s that would, rear its ugly head when I would bend over and pick up a sock periodically.
Wow,
and I'd wonder, how did that 0.5 ounces of sock, how did that damage my back? How could that possibly be? I didn't even think of, the question never entered my mind. I was just like, well, I've got a back problem. And all of the problems just sort of accumulated, and it just became a part of who I was. And I didn't recognize that they were outcomes of things I did to myself. And so when he had me change the way I was eating, a couple of weeks went by, and then I realized, damn, I haven't had a headache in like 2 weeks. And his name's Brad. I met with Brad. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, well, your inflammation is lower, your systemic inflammation. And I asked him what that was. I didn't get a great answer. And it sounded kind of hokey, to be honest. And in terms like functional medicine or holistic medicine back then was hokey, right? It was supplements.
What is this year-wise, roughly?
This is 2010.
Okay.
Like
so yeah,
mid 2010. But I just did whatever he asked me to do. And just because I wanted to know, like, what was going to happen. I expected nothing. And I certainly didn't expect that my energy levels would shoot through the roof. And I didn't expect that my headaches would go away. And I also didn't expect that my low back pain and my neck pain and my shoulder pain would all sort of diminish. It wasn't gone. And so I just kept doing the things he told me to do. And much of it was around exercise and nutrition. And then slowly I saw the top of my abs for the first time in my life. And it wasn't that I was like grossly overweight. I was just like a regular dad in his early 40s, just like a squishy regular dad. We didn't have a DEXA scan back then, but I was probably like in the mid 20% body fat. Like my cheeks were rounder and everything. Again, not like extreme, but not great. And I felt sick. And suddenly I felt, in hindsight, the way I think I should have felt, the way that my body was designed, or the way it was intended to be. And so that was a shocking experience to go through at that age, at 43-ish. And so I went to see my doctor, and he ran my labs, which were beautiful. I didn't know, though, because he's just my doctor. I didn't understand lipids and such things. I just, viewed him as the expert, like he's up on a pedestal. And so he came into the office kind of looking down at the chart, and he asked me how I was eating. He looked at me, and I was a bit on the muscular side, not like I am now, to be honest, but like I looked soft compared to what I am now. But I was nothing like what I was like a year earlier. I started, like I had almost a 2-pack, and my arms were like starting to look kind of muscular. No butt yet. We didn't get to that yet. I felt amazing. And he came in and he told me that I wasn't amazing, that I wasn't healthy, that he was going to put me on a statin because my total cholesterol was like 210, without getting into the LDL particles and the more comprehensive look at LDLs. He was just doing a superficial overview, which is what it was back then, and threatening to put me on a statin unless I started eating Fiber One cereal at night, which I think is made by Kellogg's or something. I don't know. He actually handed me a coupon. I'm like, do I look like I need a coupon? He handed me a coupon, and he said, studies show that if you eat this cereal, it's going to lower your cholesterol. And I looked at him like, who paid for the study, do you think? And he's like, oh, probably Kellogg's. And I'm like, oh, and he's like tried to take the words back. Like, have you ever done that where you say something, you're like, oh, let me get that back in my mouth. But he couldn't get the words back. And he said, oh, probably some medical doctors were involved in that research too. And I was just like, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. That was the first time I thought that doctors didn't know everything, or I realized that doctors didn't know everything, that they weren't perfect, that they were just people, which was an astounding shift in the way I saw the medical system. And not that they're bad, they just aren't perfect and they can't know everything. And then I asked him, well, would you speak with Brad? And we had a chiropractor named Jason who had some firm ideas on nutrition as well, and he had different opinions. Would you speak to Jason and Brad? Jason and Brad and you and me. I want us to all meet. We can come here. And he said, I can't do that. There's no way to bill for it. It's just not what we do. And he started kind of like doing the moonwalk thing, kind of like metaphorically speaking. Like he didn't want to answer the question. He felt he had to go to the next patient. And I'm like, damn, all I want is with this project, my body, it's like a product launch. And in manufacturing, in my past life, it seems like another lifetime. When we launched a new product, I would have the heads of every department in one room, and we would fight about it, debate. Like the CFO was in there, and he would argue about the quality of the costing. Like, you guys are off there. let me find it. And he would argue, and then the marketing person would get all flustered. But it's so pretty, it's beautiful. And then the manufacturing guy was like, well, we can't make it over and over again. We'll have, claims up to our eyeballs and our brand is going to be destroyed. And it was this tug of war. So I imagined that I wanted that for my body. Like, why can't I have that for my body? You guys don't even know everything about my body or anybody's body. So how can you not have a debate? So all this stuff was flashing in my mind while I'm driving back, angry at the doctor, and I had my lab results, and then I handed them to Brad, and Brad's like, they look great. I'm like, what? Well, this is my freaking point. Like, I don't know if I believe you or that Jason guy downstairs. How do I navigate this? And that was the problem that I decided I would solve for. And in my naivete, I just decided, well, I'm gonna create my own damn team. And fuck all those guys. They're not invited to our team party. And that was the genesis of Stark. It's pretty basic. It's the same thing that occurs in every other business, but not in health for some bizarre reason. The only product that we don't know everything about, and maybe never will. How can you not have a team specialist? I don't know.
So speaking of teams of specialists, Alice, when and how did you join the Stark movement? Like, what attracted you to this?
Emphasis, attraction.
By the way, we're married. Just in case you guys aren't aware. There's a weird banter here. Is because we're married. So I joined Stark in 2016. And I actually just graduated from medical school about 6 months before, down in San Diego, so Bastyr University. It's a naturopathic medical school. Before that, I was actually a trainer. So I was a trainer at Equinox and also privately in Santa Monica for 4 years. And during that process, I discovered that it wasn't enough to just exercise. You can't out-exercise a bad diet. And if there's other things happening internally, like if there were hormone imbalances or deficiencies, or if your thyroid wasn't working, that the patient or the client would not make much progress. So that propelled me to actually go back to school. And so when I found Stark, I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is what I was doing before anyway. So team trainers, they trained in they had the same training philosophy that I had when I was a trainer. At the time, we used something called functional movement screening, or as a movement screening. And I saw that on the website, and I thought, oh, okay, they're not like a bodybuilder gym, so we can get along. So that's how I started.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
And then she fell in love with me.
I wasn't going to ask that part.
On the Zoom call when I interviewed her. I could see it in her eyes. I was like, I don't know, should I bring her on? She's kind of into me.
He also looked like he was 6'4" on FaceTime.
Got her.
Let's Zoom.
Short Kings rule.
Shout out Zoom. All right, well, let's get further into today's topic. So sex hormones, like estrogen and testosterone, let's talk about how they influence brain function, mental health, and stages of life. Who wants to start, and where do you want to start this?
Let me tee it off, and then you can kind of step in and clean it up for me. So mess it up. This is something that most are confused about, that sex hormones are primarily brain hormones. Like the receptors where the sex hormones dock to penetrate the nucleus of the cell to do their thing, they're really clustered in your brain and your gonads, the fun part. But this is where you actually feel the presence of optimal sex hormones the earliest. And this is also where you experience the decline in the beginning. I remember in my late 40s beginning to forget where I put my keys. And having to write everything down. I had copious notes that were everywhere because I really couldn't keep track of everything. And it happens very slowly for men, the decline of sex hormones. So it's almost imperceptible. It's very civilized. For women, it's not. We're just lucky that way. It just happens so slowly that we don't actually feel the difference. And we think we're just fine. Like everything's wonderful. But it's really not. Like you're just not really operating at your potential. At right around, for men, it's called andropause, the slow, steady decline of sex hormones or testosterone. it starts in like your early 30s, and it's just very, very slow. Like, so when I was in my early 30s, and I remember picking up my baby boy when he was 6 months old, and in the middle of the night he was straddling my belly, I remember thinking, well, I'm just getting older, you know? I'm in the full throes of a dad bod. I guess this is just the way it is. It's going to be, my flaps are down and I'm looking for a place to land at 31, right? And so for women, it's very different. And I'll have Alice step in and kind of expand on all this stuff. And maybe we can talk a little bit about the common misconceptions. I don't know if are there a lot of misconceptions among men today on the critical nature of testosterone? It sort of seems like it's a common topic today. It wasn't a decade ago when I started. You know, is that right? Is that about accurate? Okay. But with women, we're right at the beginning stages of it becoming something that women are not so fearful of and recognize that it is a part of a healthy journey in life. We're at the beginning stages of that for women. So I think that would be really ideal if you can talk about the stages of menopause and how the experience of going through that, and what the process of hormone replacement therapy looks like, and what the outcomes are when they end up on the other side in an optimal level, or at an optimal level.
Okay. Sorry, let me just reorganize that a little bit. So just to reemphasize what he was saying earlier, a lot of people think that these sex hormones are only involved in your breast or your penis or your vagina, ovaries, or anything like that, or your uterus. It is not. These hormones actually act in every cell of the body. And it's not just the brain. That's what he was saying. It's in your immune cells, it's in your joints, it's in your cardiovascular system. But definitely when it comes to your perception of the world, the hormones are powerful in the brain. So there is an explosion of Alzheimer's that's happening right now. And the reason why is that our population is aging, but a huge portion of that population, they were deprived of a crucial therapy, and they're females, by the way, in the early 2000s. Now that came with the WHI study, the Women's Health Initiative study, where there was a conclusion from the study that was not very well thought out, and also, in fact, misinterpreted, that estrogen was causing heart attacks and strokes and also causing breast cancer. So there has been subsequent reanalyses of that study in the past 2 decades where they said, and they found, they're like, oh, wait, that's actually not the case. And I don't want to go into the details of that. There are plenty of podcasters out there who will go into the nitty-gritties of how that was done poorly. There are doctors like, for example, a very famous one, Dr. Peter Attia, who said that that was probably the greatest travesty and the greatest mistake in medicine in recent decades. That's how bad it is. So think about it, 20 years of women who basically enter this phase of life where they don't have these crucial brain hormones, and now they're 60, 70, 80 years old, and that's one of the reasons why that there is such an explosion of Alzheimer's, because without these hormones, the brain cells, they don't operate very well. They end up dying. So when it comes to perimenopause, so this is the period where your hormones are really kind of wacky. You're still making some hormones, but then you're not. Then you're making a lot and you're making none whatsoever. This can actually start up to 10 years before your actual onset of menopause. So what he was saying earlier, with men having like this slow kind of decline, this is actually happening with women too. Depends on the individual though. It could be incredibly sudden, but it really kind of depends on that individual patient. I can tell you that, you can extend or delay menopause. And that usually includes being incredibly healthy. Like, what is your nutrition like? What are your micronutrients like? What's your stress management like? And the oldest patient we have currently who has a regular cycle still is 55 years old. That's actually pretty old. Okay, so I've been old. But I have seen patients where they have gone into menopause, and this is more of a genetic thing, late 30s, like 38 years old, full on, just like she has to be on hormone replacement therapy. And this is not because of surgery either. So everyone is very individual. And I will say that when it comes to managing this group of individuals, it's incredibly challenging. It is an N=1 medicine, very personalized. And the kind of constellations of symptoms are very, very different. So it can be itchy ears. That's a really interesting one right there.
Right.
Yeah. Vertigo. I've seen that one too. Joint pain. That one's really obvious, on top of obviously the hot flashes, night sweats, brain fog, and also vaginal dryness, low libido. I know this is really exciting and doom and gloom right now, but I will say that we've treated a ton of females with hormone replacement therapy. And what's amazing, I'll tell you a story. I had this, one of my first patients that I put on hormone replacement therapy, estrogen replacement therapy, as well as progesterone. She came to me, and she is like a very high level C-suite, just very kind of a really intimidating woman. Still intimidates me to this day. By the way, it's been like 8 years. She came to me and she said, "My brain isn't working. I am walking into a room and I do not remember why I've walked into this room. I used to remember everyone's name. She was in software, by the way. So she's like incredibly high powered. And she said, my brain, I feel like I have dementia." And we're like, okay, let's take a look. Obviously you're not having your cycle anymore. Let's give you some hormones. And this, again, my first HRT patient, hormone replacement therapy patient, I'm sitting there crossing my fingers. I've learned these things in school. I have these mentors who've guided me. And I'm crossing my fingers like, oh my God, I hope this works. I hope this works. I hope this works. And then she comes, in the gym about a month or two later, she comes to just kind of beelines me in the middle of the gym. She's the type of person who does not blink when she talks to you and doesn't break eye contact either. Like I said, very intimidating. She came up to me and she said, "Thank you for giving me my brain back." And she turned around, and I just stood there. I was like, "Oh God, thank God!"
You clap for that.
So it's,
That's amazing.
it gives them when you start to lose your brain, and again, people just don't understand until they actually go through it. They're like, "Oh my God, I think I'm going crazy." But when you give them that portion of their life back, it's powerful. And I will also bring up one other case where I have this patient has been postmenopausal for definitely a few years. She decided that she was going to go to law school. And I was like, oh, that's ambitious, okay. Law school in her 50s, postmenopausal is okay. She's very healthy, works out, great body composition, but hormones aren't there, and it hasn't been there for quite some time. So we initiated hormone therapy with her before she started law school. And she proceeded to go through law school. And again, this is stressful. Law school, med school, any of that. So it's been 2 semesters. And I've checked in with her. And she's started estrogen. She started testosterone. And I asked her, "How are you doing?" And she said to me, "Honestly, law school is really, really tough. But I'm doing incredibly well. And in fact, I'm at the top of my class." Wow. So even she has not been in school for decades now. But the fact that she has these hormones in place and these great foundations of training and eating well, and then having, of course, like I said, the hormones to really kind of help with brain function, her ability to really kind of manage stress and be resilient towards it, and also have her brain work optimally. I look at that and I'm like, wow. I think, it's a testament to how powerful these therapeutics are for a patient. And they can, again, keep having, not at the end of life, just this decline. They can keep going for other things and other kind of pursuits.
Yeah, if you think about the global impact of optimal hormones, it's really a profound change. And I'm not just talking about for older women or older men, because young men and young women have problems with hormones too. And it's not that they're good candidates for replacement therapy. It's just that their lifestyles, their diet, lack of sleep, social media, mental health issues, all just crush your body's ability to create sex hormones. And so the impact is, it's global. So it obviously it has an impact on mental well-being, like Alice just suggested, but it definitely has an impact on body composition. And part of that impact is that you believe that by eating better and exercising, you're going to get the results because of the mental well-being impact. Does that make sense? And so your behavior changes. And then you also have the ability to physiologically add a little bit of muscle, lose a bit of body fat because your physiology is changing. So it's bidirectional. You're better mentally, so you're making better decisions, and you're benefiting in a bigger way from those better decisions because you have the hormones on board. What I just described, Chirag, this young man right here in front of me, can do this just naturally. But he has to live in such a way where his body was designed to live, right? He was designed to move. I've seen him walking on little treadmills inside of Stark on his phone, but his body's like, I'm hunting and I'm gathering right now. You know, it's thinking that it's being used the way it was designed. And I think he sleeps really well. I think his mental well-being is exceptional. He's put a lot of work into that. And so he's got all of these foundational things in line. And likely, I don't pour through your chart because that's kind of creepy, but likely he has really good-looking, sexy hormones. Is that a term? I'm just looking into his eyes right now thinking, that's a sexy dude. But because he's got the physiological capabilities, and there are a lot of young people here, looking at some of them right now, that have the capability to produce optimal hormones that in your future maybe you'll have to replace to get back there. But you can do it now. You don't have to inject testosterone into your glute like I do, because you make it yourself. Like I would never inject testosterone into my glute if I were your age, because our levels are the same theoretically. Like it would be literally pointless. Does it make sense? You have tremendous capabilities as young people. As older people, the takeaway is you have the potential to get back in that part of your health to a younger state. And it is also cardiovascular health. It is strength. It's sleep recovery and stress. It's gut health. It's detoxification pathways. Certainly mental well-being, and also orthopedic health. It's all of your health as it relates to that skinny little part of your health, which is your sex hormones. Does that make sense? It has a global impact.
All right, so I have one more question for them, and then we're going to open it up so we can get everybody else involved as well. So be ready with that question, okay, or those questions. All right, so when we think about the 4 domains and we look at them together, so hormones, brain, mental health, and metabolism, what do you see as the most critical lever for extending both lifespan and quality of life?
It's going to be your brain. I'm biased. My undergrad was in psychology with an emphasis in biopsychology. And I actually conducted, this is kind of interesting, my undergrad, I conducted a ton of research on rats and hormones. I know this is kind of a slightly bad story, but we used to take a bunch of rats and either take their ovaries or their testicles. You know, we would do a gonadectomy, so we remove them, and we would actually see how they behave when it comes to a battery of tests. And when you take away the gonads of these rats, you'll see that they will behave like aged rats. We ran a whole line of studies on it. And when I think back of like what I did as an 18, 22-year-old, I was like, oh my God, I never thought back then that I would still be this like involved in hormones. But if your brain isn't working, nothing else works. So I have a colleague who runs and owns a dementia facility in Encinitas. And all she sees are end-stage, really kind of sick patients with Alzheimer's or dementia. And she has done presentations, and she's also published on this. But one of the things that she'll do to improve the quality of life of those patients is to give them hormones. So a man would get testosterone replacement therapy. The female would actually get, estrogen, testosterone, and, progesterone as well. And while that won't solve or cure them of their dementia, it will improve their quality of life in the end of their years. So that's in itself is a pretty powerful testament of how important hormones are when it comes to brain and cognition. Now, if your brain's working, just like what he was saying right now, if your brain is working better, you will make better decisions. So we see about 60% men here at Stark. We have around 105 men on testosterone replacement therapy that we completely track and follow and test very frequently, up to 4 times a year when it comes to their blood work. And what we'll see is that when we put them on test and we follow them, first of all, they feel better. Like their mood is better. They're more ambitious. They feel more motivated. They feel like they can handle more things. They're not anxious. They're not depressed. Now, the other thing is that they start making better decisions about their health. I cannot tell you how often where we see in the DEXA machine, like a person who's been with us for a few years, and they are not making any progress whatsoever, and they, for whatever reason, many reasons, are not starting testosterone replacement therapy. And the moment that they do start, we will see some of the most powerful transformations in their body composition and their metabolism. So today, in fact, we just I have a patient in his 70s. He has been like in the 40% body fat range forever. And today we saw 11 pounds of fat mass that's dropped. Wow. And he is in like the 33%. Now, this is a man in his 70s, never thought that this was going to happen in his life. So it's powerful. And in fact, in my opinion, and from my clinical experience as well, testosterone replacement therapy is way more effective than Ozempic or Mounjaro when it comes to really changing someone's body composition. So,
as a patient, I like to echo that the most exciting thing about having your hormones optimized is how your mind works. It's so, like juicy. You're just like, you recall everything, you can focus. I'm pretty sure I'm funnier. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not funnier. Got you guys to laugh twice. It's just more fun to be on the inside of my body, The thoughts I can process, the creativity, the energy. This is one of my most favorites. This comes along, I think, with some wisdom. The ability to recognize the evolution of your emotional well-being, to connect with people. Like comparing maybe you disagree with this, I don't think so. I can connect with people on an emotional level within seconds because I'm so present that I never could have done when I was in manufacturing. And so if you guys are leaders in your businesses or your service providers and your clients are important or your employees are important, your customers are important, imagine through your health, whether it's because you're a young buck still and you have the ability to enhance your own hormones through the way you live and eat and sleep, or you have them replaced, imagine you can level up like 40% just by accomplishing that. Plus you get a way better physique along with it. But that really is the side benefit.
All right, let's give it up for the panel. And questions, who's first? Oh, don't be scared.
What are some of the side effects of hormone replacement therapy for men and women?
And I'll repeat the question what are some of the side effects for men and women for hormone replacement?
Can I start with the testosterone replacement? I can just roll through my own.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's possible that your testes get really tiny. It kind of sucks. But they weren't really doing anything for me. You know what I mean? And I got the other things that came along with it. As a physiological outcome, they're back. I mean, is that TMI? We're talking about body parts. I don't know why they're back. The approach that we use to delivering testosterone is a little bit different than it was back then. Like, he's got this microdosing system that doesn't have the same negative side effects. Negative side effects. One time, this is really TMI. Like 2 weeks in, I woke up with a morning erection that was like when I was 18. And that started happening again for the first time in my adult life after like a gap of it just so slowly declining. And like, hey bro, you look the same, but you're not quite like you used to be, you know what I mean? and I had to pee in the shower because I couldn't get it to go away. I was worried. I had to just pee straight up. That happened. I believe my prostate is smaller because I'm able to pee with an erection into the shower. And some people are afraid of having prostate issues if you go on TRT. I don't, from my own personal experience and the arguments I've had with my urologist. I don't think that's an issue. And there's something called T-flu that I experienced, which is it feels like you have the flu for like a week. And there's no, like your fever's not, you don't have a fever or anything. You're just like all achy and stuff. And then it went away. I mean, I talked to Alice about it. I'm like, I got this thing. I think I'm sick. Oh, it's just T-flu. It's no big deal. Sure enough, on the other end of that week, it was gone and in my rearview mirror. And those are the negative side effects, yeah, that I experienced. Do you have any others to add?
So whenever you optimize a man's testosterone, his libido will actually be quite high. Now think about what your libido was when you were 18 or 16. Now, the problem with that, and there's a lot of couples counseling that I actually have to end up doing. There's a lot of, like, hey, if there is a differing sex drives between the man and the woman, and the man goes on testosterone replacement therapy, then that libido of his will go even higher, then that's actually going to cause a lot of friction in the relationship. So the wife, the spouse, the girlfriend, the partner, they must know. They must be aware. Otherwise, that will be a problem. The other thing is that if a man is not eating his protein, and not hitting protein targets, not under eating, and he is on testosterone. Testosterone is a highly anabolic hormone. So meaning that if you are not eating and your blood sugar then plummets, and you are having a bunch of kids running around annoying the crap out of you, you will explode on the kids and they will blame it on the testosterone. It's actually more hypoglycemia. So the third thing is many men are very concerned that testosterone will actually cause baldness. Now, for some men in their follicles, they're going to be more sensitive to a more powerful form of testosterone called DHT, dihydrotestosterone. If they have that sort of predisposition, then yes, you can have some hair loss there. But I've had many men who are like, man, I feel so great. I don't care about my hair. I'm already married. I have kids. I don't intend on going on dates or anything like that. Whatever, my hair can go. So, and also if there's obviously genetics there, that's going to be a problem. Like you're going to lose your hair regardless of testosterone or not.
Well, here's an interesting consideration though too. A lot of men go on finasteride, which suppresses your DHT, clean this up if I'm screwing it up, and enables your hair to grow back. Enables your, I know that's bad, it's rough. That's right. He can handle it. So when you go on, so your finasteride is suppressing it, and then your experience of being a man is also suppressed. Like you're depressed and you're anxious and you're, from the neck down, you're falling apart, but you've got this glorious head of hair. Right? And then you go on TRT and your doctor doesn't know enough to tell you that they're going to cancel each other out. Like your DHT is suppressed because of finasteride and I'm going to try to raise your DHT with testosterone. It's not going to work. And so you continue with your glorious hair, you're injecting testosterone into your glute, your little tiny glutes, and it's just not doing anything. You're like, this is terrible. This whole thing sucks. I'm still depressed, but I've got this such beautiful hair. So there's that.
Who's next?
For women?
So this is a little bit more complex. When it comes to personalized medicine, there is nothing more personalized than hormone replacement therapy for women. So there are some women who are incredibly sensitive to some of these hormones. So this is why you have to work with a practitioner who can actually have the doses adjusted, via going through a compounding pharmacy. And there are actually multiple kinds. Again, with men, it's testosterone. That's all you have to basically. It's this one. That picture, the meme of the man is one dial on a plane or something like that, something like control panel, and then for a woman it's like 5 different, like multiple, like 10, 20 dials, or dials. That's literally what it is, like for men and women when it comes to hormones. So I've had women who I would give them testosterone in cream form, low dose, and then their hair would start falling out. And I'm like, nope, that's not working. I've given progesterone to women, and it's supposed to help them sleep. For 90% of the women, it'll help them sleep. 10%, it will drive them batshit crazy. Sorry, but so with the female patients, we actually have to do a lot more hand holding. But if we get it right, they feel awesome. And if they don't get their refills for their medications, they will be very angry with our front desk and call, screaming, and just bloody murder. So that one. Is this, and for women, sometimes, they will actually start to have some breakthrough bleeding, even though they haven't had a period for decades or something like that. So usually we will work with an OBGYN and have that worked up, like we'll send them to them, get imaging done to make sure there's nothing that is more serious. But yes, these are all the things you have to consider.
So my question is really simple. What is the best activity to produce more myelination in the brain? Because a lot of gray matter exists as you age, and you want to produce more white matter, right? So what do you recommend as a pattern or anti-pattern for producing myelination? Which is basically, if you don't know what myelination is, it's like we're triggering all of our synapses, right? Brain activity going off, you get a eureka moment, your brain is healthy when you have that. So I'm interested in understanding what y'all have come to find out this approach y'all have about this.
So are you looking for myelination, or are you looking for
Myelination specifically, that's going to help produce more myelination.
more myelin? So to maintain more myelin, or the health of the myelin sheath, you actually have to make sure that your omegas are optimal. So that's from a nutrition standpoint. So omega-3s are, in fact, DHA omega-3 is crucial for brain function. Now, when it comes to the myelination, remyelination, that's tricky. Like, that's something where my mentors were actually functional neurologists. They were the ones who can identify neurodegenerative disease 10 years before it shows up on imaging, just by looking at physical exams, like very, very, very in-depth physical exams. They're going to say that you can't do it, that you can't actually grow new neurons. However, what they'll say is that you can actually grow new branches of those neurons. So the brain is perhaps one of the most complex organs in this universe, like especially the human brain. Probably, the only other brain in the animal kingdom that can compete is probably the dolphin brain. But I will say that, can I talk about your personal history or no?
Sure.
Okay. He actually had a stroke about a year ago. Now, this is actually from a heart condition that he has called atrial fibrillation, where his heart pumps irregularly. And when it goes on for too long of a period, it actually creates a blood clot. And if that blood clot gets thrown out of the heart, it can cause a stroke. Okay. So for him, and it was pretty serious. He actually, he was in the hospital for 3 days. He actually had issues with.
I could have gotten out in one day, but they would have tackled me. I found out that they can actually restrain you in hospitals.
Yeah, they can actually.
That's some bullshit right there.
So in the past year, what's been really kind of fascinating in his case, it was actually almost a year ago that's happened. And what's amazing when you look at him and you hear him talk, you're like, holy crap, I have no idea that you had a stroke. Now, I think the only thing that really kind of is remnant or residual in his issue is that he does have, do you still have the blind spot?
Yeah, it's like right up here, but I don't ever use that. So, no big deal. Yeah.
No pickleball for this guy, by the way. So anyway, the past year, the focus has actually been healing his brain. Now, there are a few factors that went into him being able to function the way that he is now and is in the health that he is. Number one, his health going into the stroke. He was optimally healthy going into the stroke. Number two, how fast we got him to the hospital. And number three, what we did afterwards. Like all the therapeutics we did afterwards to really help his brain heal. And one thing I'll tell you, high-dose fish oil, but high-dose krill oil in particular to really kind of help repair that brain of his. Krill oil, fun fact, actually is an omega-3 that is bound with phospholipids, and phospholipids really, really, really repair the brain and protects it from damage. Now, the other things we did, like phosphatidylcholine, which is also another thing that is really, really, really important for brain function. IV therapy, antioxidants. Interestingly enough, I did a deep search of whether or not testosterone was actually helpful or harmful in his case. And all the studies actually show that it was, in fact, helpful. So if he actually went into that stroke and had low testosterone, his outcomes afterwards wouldn't have been as good. Now, finally, so let me give you the timeline of the stroke. He had stroke on Sunday. He was in the hospital until Wednesday. He came back into Stark on Thursday, did some light cardio. On Friday, he started to lift. So when it comes to the brain...
I had a speech the following Monday.
Yeah, he actually did a speech as well the following Monday as well. Yeah, he was there. And found out there that, he had an issue, that he had the event. Now, when it comes to the brain and the body, your muscles and your brain, from a longevity standpoint, bidirectional. Just like what he was saying earlier. The brain feeds into the muscles, but the muscles, if you work it, will feed into the brain. And that's why, when it comes to a longevity standpoint, it's a non-negotiable. When you talk about, or they talk about all the blue zones out there, and they talk about diet, and they're really cherry picking, by the way. What the common denominator of these blue zones and why they live so long, number one is community, and number two is actually movement. They're constantly moving. They're not sedentary. So, he never stopped. Like we forget sometimes, and I had to kind of remind him, hey, listen, just chill out a little bit. You did have an event. And he was like, oh yeah, that's right. But life will throw some crazy curveballs at you. And it's what you do before and after is really important, whether or not you survive and thrive.
Yeah, it was inconvenient. But the exciting thing is, as she's describing, there's a lot you can do for your cognition physiologically. And it's food, it's supplements, it's exercise, it's meditation, getting a grip on who you are as a person and recognizing how you're seeing the world. That's where meditation steps in. What she didn't talk about, I don't know if it's okay to share with you guys, is that I did 20 hero dose psilocybin nights from the stroke to last May or something, which is not fun. It's am I dying? It's like total lunatic trying to, create new neural connections, the neuroplasticity benefits of it. And prior to having the event, also related to cognition and mental well-being, I did, over the course of a few years, roughly, this is in a clinical setting, 32 ketamine-assisted therapy sessions for the purpose of enhancing brain function. This all led up to the stroke. But I had this medical condition. I was first diagnosed when I was 32, and I'm 57 now. So it's been a long time. It's not I wondered when. It wasn't like an if. And it's turned out to be a very helpful problem, because when you recognize your mortality at such a young age, you start looking for things to do to help minimize the impact or protect you. And you also I think the experience of being alive is enhanced because through the recognition of your mortality, the minutes, the days, the weeks, the months become more precious. And I would have otherwise taken it for granted. So all of that led up to that stroke. Does that help? Is that helpful?
Yeah, definitely. It's really helpful because I have a permanent scar on my left side.
Okay.
Car accident. I've been on seizure watch for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because I had 100 microfractures.
Oh, wow.
But the TBI, like sometimes, I had tinnitus for 3 years straight after a car accident. All these things. But I'm asking that question because I deal with that now. Where, sometimes I have to do certain things to get my brain activity going. So I'm interested in learning.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot you can do for brain health.
We got time for one more, and then we can all network and hang out. But want to make sure we get some time for some questions afterwards. Or,
Yeah. So my name is Mimi, by the way. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I've been really interested in peptides. So I'm curious about your thoughts on peptides, hormones.
Okay, so she had a question around peptides. The approach with peptides is that it's just like not just like hormones, but you should approach it like it's the icing on the cake. I have seen patients attempt to optimize their hormones with peptide therapy, and it gets to a point where, for us women, we're not going to be making these hormones unless it's replaced. Our ovaries are going to be done at a particular point. So now, in order for the peptides to work optimally, you have to have the hormones in place as a foundation. So I've seen some people attempt to use the peptides to really kind of replace the hormones, and it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't. Now, there are thousands of peptides, and they have different purposes, different combinations as well. So it really depends on what your outcomes, your desires, your goals are when it comes to the peptides. But the ones that I like the most are, of course, there's one, and here's the problem: the legal status of the peptides, unfortunately, right now is problematic. FDA is trying to go after it. There's actually a huge podcast that was just released by Joe Rogan. He interviewed a guy named Brigham Bueller, and he talks about the complex legal status of peptides and why you got to be really cautious about where you're getting it from, because a lot of people are actually getting it from the internet, and you just can't guarantee if there's, number one, the peptides are in there. Number two, it's sterile, like it doesn't have any sort of contaminants, heavy metals, or bacteria in there. You can actually get hurt from it. But yeah, it's a big discussion. But the ones I used to use a lot when we had access to it with reputable compounding pharmacies was CJC ipamorelin. That one is a growth hormone releasing peptide, which is awesome. It really kind of gets your own body to release your own growth hormone, which is a great recovery anti-aging hormone in itself. The other one is DSIP, which he used to use. It helps with deep sleep. There is one that actually will help lengthen telomeres, which is called epitalin. That one's also difficult to get from a reputable compounding pharmacy right now, too. So I'm hoping that this current administration will really allow for more freedom for these peptides to be compounded by reputable companies going forward. But we'll see in the coming years. But I'm hopeful. I think that they are, in fact, the future when it comes to really kind of encouraging healthcare instead of sick care. But by the way, the GLP-1s, they're peptides. Ozempic, Mounjaro, those are all originally peptides. But pharma actually patented it, and that's why they're so damn expensive right now. So.
All right. Sure. You want to close us out?
Thank
Let's
you.
do it. Thank you.